So, guys, I wanted to revisit the Ashlee Buzzard case. I mean, we're still looking for Melody Buzzard. We don't know where she is. I did a video on this yesterday, kind of my feelings when she won the case. Basically, there's going to be no trial here. They dropped the charges. That's a win in my book. They let the GPS tracking go. And obviously, a lot of people have concerns about that because we still don't know where Melody is. But we all question this person right here, Tyler Brewer, because he came out of nowhere. And the center of this story has always been about Melody. And I said in the last video, when he came in, we felt something about that because we felt that he was trying to take some shine. And the reason why I got that thought was because, remember, he posted something on his Facebook immediately after he had these interactions of how to get in contact with him. I think he wanted to get some notoriety using her, standing in her light. And she mentions it in the audio. We'll play the audio soon, so I'm going to do the breakdown of the NewsNation video. But I wanted to mention something. I would love to see her interactions with the mental health staff at the jail, because she had to have had them there when she was there for about a couple of days, a week maybe. She would have had interactions with them. I'm curious to see what happened there, because they would have had pressure because they know the case is big. So it'll just be interesting. I want to talk about the audio recording, the one that she produced that no one knew about. I think it was the recording on November 6th when he came to the house. The recording he didn't know about. So I want to talk, before we go specifically in the audio, I want to know, I looked up the California law. California is a two-party consent state, meaning both people must know they're being recorded if the conversation is confidential. A lot of people assume that being in your own home changes the rule. It doesn't. Recording someone in your own living room is still two-party consent if they reasonably believe the conversation was private. Now, remember, he did not know he was being recorded, but there's a nuance here. Even if a recording was made without full consent, California courts can still allow parts of it in situations where the recording becomes evidence in a criminal investigation. The judge needs it to understand context or credibility, or the conversation is deemed not fully confidential based on circumstances. That's exactly why a judge allowed I think it's a 3-minute excerpt maybe, because it's an hour and 16, that dialogue. But whatever the excerpt is, whether it's 3 minutes, 6 minutes, whatever it is, whatever they allowed out, it's because it was relevant to showing her innocence. So he was able to accept that, and that is probably what they're releasing. They're not releasing the whole audio, at least not at this time. So it's an excerpt of Ashlee's recording to be played during her preliminary hearing, and then it was sent out to news outlets like NewsNation, where they got a portion of it. Now, with these final 3 minutes, we're going to walk through exactly what's said, how it lines up with the judge. All right, so let's go to the NewsNation video. I just wanted to share that real quick. All right, and guys, if you get a chance, please check out the other videos I've done on this, because you could start to see my perspective evolve. I see it, why we're doing the discussion, because I learn at the same time you guys learn. So I start to see things differently. But my evolution for her happened in 2021 when she got locked up in the psychiatric ward for treatment or whatever it is. She needed some mental health treatment. She was vulnerable. And while she was getting treated, the people that were watching her children were trying to take away her child. And if you notice, I did a video a while back, a couple of days ago, about how aggressive I felt the grandmother was from the paternal side. Even I want to punch Ashlee in the face and all this other stuff. And then there's an interview from NewsNation where she is a bit more calmer, as if it's a bit more controlled. So I think someone definitely spoke to the grandmother, because you're not painting a good picture here. Because the grandmother, I thought, was very aggressive at first. If you ever look at the interview that Brian Entin just did, watch how calm she is now, as opposed to how she was before, extremely aggressive when, but now the narrative's shifting. And a lot of the public is actually seeing someone that may not have hurt her child, but rather is afraid that her child could be taken away. But if she's having a mental health breakdown, to be fair, what do you do when you feel your child's being taken away? Well, I don't think she would ever hurt Melody, so I'm believing that she may have gave the child away to someone she trusts for the time being. So if she ever goes to a mental health concern, she knows the child will be there, as opposed to not. Because I think she's afraid that if the paternal side takes her, she'll never see the child again. But then there's also other concerns that she may just take the child out. That's the best way to protect her, so she's not in those hands. But I don't see that. I just don't. And it could be. I'm not saying it's not. But I just, my feeling is telling me something else. And I'm pretty good with how I feel, but I'm not perfect. No one is. All right, so let's play this real quick. I'm going to stop the video a couple of times because I have a few things I would like to say. Plus, keeps it in the fair use. So they know I'm breaking it down a little bit. If you guys want to see the whole video, I would recommend you go to NewsNation. Like on Stop by My Interference. Okay, hold on.
A bizarre case against a bizarre woman just fell apart in a way that may not be strictly bizarre, but it was real unusual. The woman, of course, is this lady, Ashlee Buzzard, mother of the little girl behind her, Melody Buzzard, who has not been seen in 42 days now.
I want to mention something. So if you watch the narratives with the news, one thing about the news I find is that some of them do try to take control of the narrative. It's a race to get the story first and also to control the narrative. So a lot of them are a bit more persistent, even when the evidence against it. So they will talk a little bit favorable about Tyler Brewer. You'll hear it. They're subtle things, but like they'll say something that it may make sense, but then always put a little caveat to cause some level of doubt. I still think that they believed him at first, or they went with the narrative because it was just against her. That's probably what they did. And it's their initial impression, and it's very hard for them to change it. They're going to keep going with it, I believe, until they can't. And then they may not apologize for it. They'll just slowly fade it out. That's what they'll do. But in this case, they're still 100% against her. And again, we don't know where Melody is, but we also don't know why. And I think there's some judgment here that we have to be careful if we're going to ask her questions on curiosity, not questions built on judgment. Also, I do watch Ashlee a little bit. I don't like how they keep on kind of talking about how the makeup she wears and how she looks, because this person's having a mental health breakdown. I just don't think it's fair. I think, just adding, she's all made up, she looks like this. But I mean, if she's having a mental health concern, I don't think Ashlee is going to fold. I think she's mission driven on something, but you don't want her to snap. And I think that just pushes people, especially with the Bryant and the reporter going in their face, just bragging about asking questions, as opposed to, it's you got in her face, you're able to ask a question. That's great. But what did that really do? It did nothing. This lady is not going to open up to strangers. She doesn't want attention. She wants to be away from it. She's going to only open up to someone that she feels that she can trust, not someone who's looking to be that person.
The case was not tied directly to Melody's disappearance today, but instead to an alleged false imprisonment of a local paralegal who supposedly wanted to help Ashlee find that little girl, but encountered instead an intransigent and very strange Ashlee Buzzard.
And I disagree with that. I think she was very controlled. I think, again, that's part of the original narrative that they had. She's very careful what she says, because outright we know the audio is totally against what he said. Even the detective that went on the stand said that wasn't true. But, they're going to say what they're going to say. But in the end, she was very much in control. And she could have been, as we know, she's recording. Maybe she could have been performing, whatever it was. But I think she was something from the text messages, and she wanted to record it because she knew what he was about. She read him. So she was able to record it just in case he was going to try to spin something. And when we get to the audio video, I want to give you a perspective, and I would love your thoughts on this. Okay, sorry about that, guys.
Ashlee and the paralegal were both in court today. He had claimed that Ashlee pulled a box cutter on him and wouldn't let him leave her house. It was a preliminary hearing in Santa Barbara County, but it won't be going any further than this today. And I'm going to get to that in a second, and I'll explain why the judge said no more. We're done. But once again, I should note, again in bizarre fashion, Ashlee Buzzard was dressed for the occasion today, showing up in court with an overwhelming amount of makeup and her long curly wig pulled back in a ponytail. She was also wearing very baggy pants, apparently meant to hide that pesky little ankle monitor that she had been forced to wear. This time we got an up close and personal look at it. Despite the high-heeled shoes, the monitor is supposed to be under those baggy pants. The victim in this case, the alleged victim, Tyler Brewer, he had told police that this woman had refused to let him leave her home after Ashlee Buzzard had shared some distressing information about little Melody, the daughter. Information that apparently Ashlee wished she had not shared with him.
Which, we don't know if that even happened. I mean, there was an hour, 16-minute audio recording. We only know about the last 3, but most of the story by the judge, Judge Dunkel, I believe his name is, he said, listen, the audio does not relate to your testimony. It doesn't connect, and you may suffer from anxiety, but subjectively, none of that matters. It's how you look at something objectively, and she did not pose a threat. I think this was very well calculated. I don't think this is for that moment is the actions of a crazy woman. I think that's the actions of a very deliberate woman.
He reported to police that Ashlee told him, quote, Melody was dropped off in Utah, and even named the person, apparently, with whom the child had been left. Today, Tyler Brewer took the witness stand and said that he visited Ashlee 5 different times between the 1st and 6th of November. That is 5 visits in 5 days. Again, bizarre. But he said on his final visit, that's when things went sideways. Ashlee's demeanor changed, he said. She turned confrontational, he said, and combative. And he said he felt threatened. And then it was Ashlee's turn to testify, but she didn't.
Now, remember, guys, he said all that without knowing they had an audio recording. So they let him kind of bury himself. So he felt free to say whatever he wanted to say until the audio recording was there. So to be honest with you, I could just imagine his oh shit moment.
Not really. Instead, her attorney played a recording that apparently Ashlee had made herself of the final 3 minutes of this whole confrontation in question. And the 3 minutes, anyway, did not exactly match what Tyler Brewer had claimed to the police. So I'm going to play this all for you. It's a little, convoluted, a little confusing, but I think you should be able to get the gist of it. Listen for yourself.
And I can't trust you when you lie. You're flat out lying. You're a really good liar. Like, Tyler. Tyler.
I'm definitely not
Tyler, be quiet and listen, please. Look at me. Like, I'm an intelligent woman. I'm 40 years old. You deal with legal stuff. Like, who are you kidding? Tyler.
I can only give you my perspective.
Listen, I'm not trying to be disrespectful.
I understand.
And you need a reality check. If this is on media news, like news talk shows, they're going to be seeing you. They're going to be interested in you. You have to understand that I'm aware, whether you want to admit it or not, you want the attention.
And guys, we all knew this. The community knew this. I think she is spot on with him, regardless of how you may feel about her. She is spot on about him. And whatever happened prior to these 3 minutes, because we don't know, I told you it was an hour, 16 minutes. There's something there that she's calling him out on. And mind you, he doesn't know he's being recorded. So she, again, was able to produce those 3 minutes because that's what they determined would be allowed to help her drop those criminal charges. But obviously the rest of it wouldn't be able to be used because you didn't have the 2-party consent, from what I read, from what my research on that is. I'm not a legal expert, but I was able to research that a little bit. So there's something there. And as you can see, I feel like she's starting to call him out on it. So maybe that was done in the first hour, 13 minutes. But he kind of wants out of the dialogue. And I think he wants out of the dialogue because she's calling him out on something. And he doesn't want to be called out on it. So that's why all of a sudden he kind of wants to go and she kind of lets him out. But there's something said in that first hour and 13 minutes that I think starts to get him nervous. You know, I do. And then he just didn't want to be called out.
I don't want attention.
There is absolutely no way in hell that you are not bipolar or have an extreme issue if you don't realize what you're doing is false advertisement. And there are real legal ramifications. I don't know how you honestly are not worried about being put in jail.
I will have to leave at this moment.
So whatever she said there bothered him. And that's why he wanted to leave at that moment, because she called him out on something. I don't, when she says false advertisement, I don't know what she means by that. Did he come? Remember, he had a badge. I saw a picture with him, a badge. I mean, did he present himself as something that he wasn't? Because at this point, I don't know if he was talking to the police. I don't think he was even working with the police because the detective said he wasn't working with them. So this would be a straight up guess, but there's something there that she thinks he's lying about, and that he could go to jail for. So I'm thinking maybe impersonating a public official, maybe only because people had saw that badge. So maybe I could put that in context. And then that would be enough to have someone go to jail. And maybe that's enough for him to say, I want this conversation to end. Now, it's unique because we may never know. That's in the first hour and 13 minutes. And, I don't know. I'm just taking a guess. I'm only going because there was one moment where people said they saw him going into her house with a badge. But false advertisement. I mean, I don't, maybe that's not the right choice of words. Maybe she meant something else. But I think it could be that, or I just can't place it in any other context. But I do know generally, and I think we're all on the same page here, she called him out on something that he can get in trouble with, and all of a sudden he's like, I want out. I want to leave. If you guys don't mind, I would like to just backtrack that a little bit again, just so you could see it. And thank you.
Understand that I'm aware, whether you want to admit it or not, you want the attention.
I don't want the attention.
There is absolutely no way in hell that you are not bipolar or have an extreme issue if you don't realize what you're doing is false advertisement. And there are real legal ramifications. I don't know how you honestly are not worried about being put in jail.
Maybe he said something in the text or something to effort to help her and then pulled back on it or something. There's got to be something there that's a shift that she recognized. And when she said you can go to jail, whatever that is, that's serious. And instead of him defending himself, because I would, if you're attacking my integrity, the first thing I would do is I would defend myself. I remember, I don't know I'm being recorded, but if you're going to attack my integrity, I have to defend myself. It's automatic, unless I can't. And then I want to leave. So I'll be curious about what the context is of that. But he's choosing to leave because I think she's right.
I would like to leave at this moment.
Since you're leaving in an uncomfortable way, I want the keys to my house
Yeah, they're right there.
and the storage.
Right there.
Nobody else has keys, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am. No one else has keys.
Look at that. I just want to show you. Yes, ma'am. That became formal real quick. Yes, ma'am, because she's in a position of authority. The moment she said, I mean, there may have been a trust there where he was trying to help her in her mind, but then something happened in that moment. And then when she said, you can go to jail, there's a position of authority for her. She's in a position of authority because he even acknowledged that by saying, yes, ma'am. She is in total control here because he may be afraid of some external consequence. Watch this.
I would like to leave at this moment.
Since you're leaving in an uncomfortable way, I want the keys to my house
Yeah, they're right there.
and the storage.
Right there.
Nobody else has keys, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am. No one else has keys.
And by the way, she didn't say, can I have the keys? She said, I want my keys. Position. She definitely took some authority there. I think it's because of what he feels could be a consequence if she reports something. And I think, to be honest with you, that's why he may have quickly also said something to the police, because he can control the narrative. Yeah, she's losing her mind, saying all these crazy things, just in case she would leak. So he's trying to control the narrative because she's got something.
Tyler, genuinely, if you've been here genuinely to help, I appreciate it. The lies are a lot. And especially if you are genuine and trying to help in your own way, you should be very concerned if they recognize you, because anyone else, like running for district, it doesn't add up. I'm not threatening you, but I'm saying, like, I'm not threatening you at all. I'm trying to help as a friend because I feel like it has to be bipolar or something. Like, I don't think you're grasping the level of online things that don't make sense.
No, I understand where you're coming from. That this moment I would like to leave, and I'm more than receptive if you want to call or text me.
How do I send you the money of the receipts?
I'm not concerned about any of that. But I'm still very receptive. Should you want to call me or text me, but I've done nothing intentionally to be deceitful.
I've done nothing intentionally to be deceitful. Now think about that real quick. He just admitted to being deceitful, just minimized it. I have done nothing intentionally to be deceitful. That's a spontaneous admission. Minimizes his being deceitful. He didn't say, I'm not being deceitful, because he couldn't stand by that. Couldn't stand behind that message, so he had to qualify it by saying, I didn't intentionally be deceitful. Minimizing.
Imagine being able to build an app with your name on it, just by thinking about it. Meet Base 44, a complete AI creation platform.
I know that's a lot to process, and I know a lot of that doesn't make sense. But I will say this, there was something I heard in there several times. That guy said, I would like to leave now. He also mentioned that she had produced a box cutter. That's the stuff you can't hear.
See, that's again them going with the narrative that they can't escape from, because we already know, and guys, we have to be fair. They already said that the box cutter wasn't there. I mean, it was on site, but it wasn't in her hands. It was on a table, and he admitted to that. And then he tried to say, well, I suffer from anxiety. How I see the world doesn't matter. And how many times he said he wanted to leave. That's just, he also said he's receptive to talking to her later too, but they're going with their continued narrative. She let him out. She didn't say, no, you can't leave. That's part of it, the declaration. She never said, no, you can't leave. She just had something else to say. They were continuing to speak, and then she let him out. Happens. Maybe times where my wife wants to go out shopping, and she's about to go, babe, don't go. I need Starbucks. Can you get me Starbucks? Oh, come on. Then she gets ready to go, oh, babe. Don't go. I also would like to have a croissant, but I want to leave. Oh, hold on. Don't go. The kids, I think, want something. I think that's just people staying with the original narrative and just saying, instead of just stepping up and saying, man, we got to look at it from another perspective. And I think that's fair. You know, I mean, we want to be objective. You know, if something goes the other way, we have to be open to it. I mean, this is ultimately, it's a person behind the label, and they could wear many hats at many times, but we have to try our best to try to remove the labels that give us some bias and see the person underneath it without judgment. And then you could truly look at things fairly. I mean, that's what we do in law enforcement, right? We try to, anyway, be as objective as possible without being tainted by the biased media. But the original narrative is gone. And I like Ash. I'm just saying the original narrative is gone. Let it go. That guy is not well received. And you're just sticking to a narrative like Harvey Levin is with Celeste Rivas Hernandez. And I think it's just unfair. I don't think it's your fault. I don't want to be rude. I don't want to get people upset with me. It's just, I don't want to stay in a narrative that doesn't work. And then the girl is still there. I don't think making fun of the mother and jumping in and pressuring her questions is what's going to get us Melody. She's not going to fold. She's going to snap, but she's not going to fold.
So she's holding a box cutter, and he is repeatedly saying, I would like to leave. It's interesting that the judge decided to throw out the case, because that's what the judge did when he heard this tape. He threw the case out.
Guys, that's unfair, Ashlee. That's unfair. He listened to what the evidence was presented, and there was no reason to keep her. The guy was debunked on the stand. So he didn't throw the case out. He had to, because she has rights too. It's, again, sticking with the original narrative. I think that's unfair. That's unfair because now you're attacking the legal system. And I think this judge did what he had to do. I think that's unfair because if it was reversed and it was someone that you were voting for, then what he did would have been the right thing. I don't think that's a fair statement, attacking the judge.
He said there was no probable cause to believe that Brewer was terrified or prevented from leaving by force. I'm not so sure I agree hearing that audio. To the contrary, the judge says we hear him leave. Yeah, okay.
Guys, this is what they do. This is not complex. It's not mysterious. It's straightforward. The audio has what you need to hear to showcase the fact that she did not hold him hostage. And then he says he has anxiety, how he sees the world, because he knew he was caught. So he tries to filter through some anxiety, and the judge's like, well, that's anxiety, but hey, that's subjective. It's not objective. And I can't hold somebody based on how you may see things because they have rights too. But again, they stay with the narrative as opposed to saying, hey, maybe we should revisit it, because they were very invested in this guy, Tyler Brewer. And they're very anti-Ashlee, even making fun of how she looks. I don't think that's the right approach. But again, I could be wrong. I just don't think that's fair.
But if you got to ask several times, there's a box cutter in front of you. That doesn't mean it didn't happen. So anyway, tonight, Ashlee's free as a bird, and that ankle monitor we've been talking about, that's a thing of the past. And our Brian Enton is right outside the family's house in the town of Lompoc, California. Brian, first and foremost, great.
And real quick, this is the gentleman. I know a lot of people like him. He's the one that leaked the Perkins operation out to the media that I had a concern with, because I think that, saying that LAPD lied. They didn't lie. They had an active investigation, and it was leaked, and no one went to the proper sources to see if that information can go out to the media. And then I watched his video, and his video talks about how he was able to get into her face and ask Ashlee questions. And it's like, okay, but she's going to snap. This is about understanding her and trying to figure out what happened. And that's what makes it tough to be in these positions of law enforcement or anything, because sometimes you have to understand people that no one wants to understand. But that's how you get to open up. And that's what we do in this profession, corrections.
Reporting, getting that audio, being in that courtroom today and seeing what transpired. First of all, let me just ask you, any movement at all, now that she's free without the ankle monitor, any movement outside that house? Have you seen Ashlee since court?
Yeah, she's back at the house tonight, Ashlee. And let me just walk up. I mean, it's dark again here tonight. There's been no activity since she returned from court. Really a free woman, no ankle monitor, no charges. I thought maybe there was a light on in the front window a little while ago, but I can't tell if it's just a reflection. But it's interesting, in court today, it came out that she actually prefers to stay at the back of the house. They talked about this during the testimony with Tyler because she's concerned about the house being bugged and people listening through the front of the house. So that makes sense why we've seen very, very little activity here at the front, Ashlee.
Well, and also she mentioned in that audio recording, this is going to be on the news and the talk shows. So maybe she's aware that there's a lot of media interest and coverage. I remember you staking out the
I think she was saying that to let him know what he did is going to get put on the news and everything. Because I think that was her leverage, because he must have said something within that first hour and change that she called him out on. So I think she was telling him, be careful. Because if you're not, I'm going to exploit you, pretty much. And that's when he was like, I want to leave. And she let him leave.
In Florida, and I believe in Northport, Florida, they also spent most of their time in the back because it was hard to see any activity in the front of the house. Real quickly, there were photos in court of the inside of her home shown today. Can you talk about those?
Yes, and by the way, that audio recording, just remember, this is her recording. She made the recording herself with her phone She decided to record these conversations with Tyler. So, remember, it sort of seems like she's putting on a little bit of a show there because she knows she's the one doing the recording.
I mean, you could look at it that way, but she had no idea who she was going to give that recording to. She is not the one that forced the recording out. That would have been with her. She was forced to bring it out the moment he faced the false imprisonment, or moment she faced the false imprisonment charging. So you're making it sound like that she did this all for show because she was planning on going this far. No, he brought the audio recording out. She's probably been recording herself the whole time because she's paranoid. It's not about her performing, but rather, just checking because she's paranoid. She's got concerns, but I disagree that's for show because she didn't want to show it to him. She didn't come out and just say, hey, I recorded him. Let me go run out and tell everyone. No, when she got arrested is when she probably brought it out because she probably had to bring it out at last minute because she needed to protect herself and alleviate the criminal charges. For someone that's so paranoid, she may not want all the information on that to be heard. So I don't think she's being performative. I don't think she's being performative. She's protecting herself. She's protecting herself. There's a lot of stuff up there she doesn't want heard by everyone else. She's not performing. That would mean that, she would be okay with letting all the information out there. She didn't want that dialogue out there. She was going to keep that secret in case he tried to say something later on that wasn't what she said. But she wasn't going to just bring it out. She was forced to bring it out. So she's not performing a show. She's not the one that's going on the stage, even though what she did, I get it, centers her on a stage. She doesn't want the attention. So I don't see her as being performative, but yeah, we give her the attention. I get it. It's a different, but she doesn't want it, even though her actions are doing it. She doesn't want it. So I disagree with that.
In terms of these other photos that came out, they had photos of the door and of the locks. There are 4 locks on the door that Tyler says she locked to keep him inside. There's also a photo of the box cutter on the ground. But it's interesting, Ashlee. I sat through the whole hearing, and it was long. It was like 3 or 4 hours. And he could never say for sure that she actually picked up the box cutter. And many of the things he said were, I felt like.
So he's correcting her to some extent because they know they're going to get some kickback on that. So I think he's correcting her, but very tentatively.
She was holding me in the house and wouldn't let me out. She stood in front of me, but then I was able to get out. So I have to say, at the end of the hearing, I was not surprised that the judge threw out the false imprisonment charge. In fact, I kind of expected it by the end. There just wasn't a lot of solid evidence.
They're not going to say he lied. There just wasn't enough solid evidence
that he wasn't able to actually leave.
If you live in a New Jersey zip code and have 0 DUIs in the last 5 years, listen carefully.
It's weird. I heard him say, I'd like to leave now. I'd like to leave now. To me, that's not the kind of thing you say. You just, if you're able to, you just say, I'm out of here. Bye-bye. It was interesting, but it's different perspective. I do want to ask you about the story I keep hearing.
So bye. That's just, she's going to quickly change her subject, but she had to get that last thought in. But technically, I'm sure you guys see the same. He wanted to leave the moment he got caught up there on something, and she didn't stop him. She may have had something else to say, but she never once said you can't leave, and that would be important. But that's what I would lean on. She never said you can't leave. She was still talking. She still had something to say.
That Tyler was somehow working with the police. Is this true? Is this why?
No, he wasn't.
We were hearing on the recording that you're deceitful, you're lying. I was trying to make out what that was all about.
Yeah, and it was a very confusing hearing on that front, Ashlee, because at the very beginning, the judge made clear to everyone involved that they could not discuss anything related to the disappearance of Melody or the investigation into the disappearance of Melody. And you can just imagine, I mean, a lot of this had to do with that. That's the whole reason it seems Tyler was at the house and was befriending Ashlee and was trying to get information out of her. So every time...
Yeah, befriending, trying. He was trying to put himself in the center of the media. I'm sorry, guys. I can't shake that. I know a lot of people believe that too. That's just my perspective based on the context.
Questions would come out about like, well, were you at the house? There was a police officer outside while you were inside the house, but they would say, no, you can't go down that road. And he would remind them too, am I allowed to answer this? And they would say no. So we never got a clear picture of whether he was actually working with the police, but it did come out that the minute he left the house and was able to leave, he texted the detective right away. He knew the detective's number, and it came out that the detective was already outside the house.
I think the detective said they weren't working together, by the way. So I don't know why he's saying that, because what I heard was the detective wasn't working together with him, unless someone else knows something different.
Doing surveillance on the house while he was inside.
Speaking of that, is there anybody out there right now, like you're facing away from the house and presumably you're facing across the street? Are there detectives or any sort of ghost cars waiting and just watching her movements? Because we're still missing a little 9-year-old girl.
Yes, and I don't want to give too much detail, obviously, on that, but there's clearly still an investigation going on. The FBI is involved, and it seems quiet out here tonight. But there are indications that she is still being watched in some regard. And even the neighbors are coming out. I mean, people are so upset with this woman that she won't come out, that she won't talk.
Wouldn't you be, again, just be, if you have ever, I mean, I get, we want to know the child, anybody's asking, but got the media all over your house. You got people all over the neighborhood, detectives out there. I mean, it's, someone has paranoia. This doesn't make it any better. I'm just very curious what happened in the jail when I'm sure she had mental health there.
And that Melody is still missing. And people are, I mean, I think there was a sense of comfort that she had the ankle monitor on. For whatever reason, people felt like, okay, they're kind of monitoring her. Now that the charge is thrown out and the ankle monitor is gone, there's definitely some concern.
Yeah, we said earlier it was a sideshow because the big show is, where is this child? For God's sake, what are they doing to find the child or hold her accountable for a child who is clearly not in that house and nowhere that we know? To that end, the child's paternal grandmother, I think it's grandmother Lily, you spoke with her. What did she have to say about everything that happened today and everything that's happening with her granddaughter?
Yeah, grandmother Lily is very feisty. That is Melody's grandma on the father's side, and she attends many of these hearings, and she is just frustrated. She keeps saying, why can no one get the information out of this woman about where Melody is? Why can't they just force her to say? Unfortunately, they just can't. That's not how it works. But she sits in the hearings. She was sitting right near us. She just watches Ashlee the whole time. I talked to her right when the hearing ended. This is what she said.
My son passed away in a motorcycle accident when Ashlee was 6 months. So I really didn't know her that much. But she was a good lady. I mean, real quiet.
Did she wear the wigs back then?
Guys, you got to watch the older interviews with her. We covered this on a prior show, how aggressive she was, and she wanted to punch Ashlee in the face. Now look how calm she is. She's been spoken to. Because remember, when Ashlee was going through the mental health concerns, they were trying to take the child away, and I think Ashlee felt she would lose the child. So I mean, if Melody is gone, I'd be totally shocked. But she's a lot calmer now. She is. She wasn't that calm before when people were feeding into that animosity. But now she's a lot calmer, and I think he may want to try to get that animosity, that excitement again. But she's not giving it this time. She's painting a different picture. But look at the older interviews and look at her now.
No, she had beautiful long hair.
Complimenting
Never
her.
wigs.
She was beautiful, nice.
Now she's wearing a lot of wigs. I don't know what that came from.
What about the makeup?
Totally different.
Never wear that kind of makeup before. She had, I don't know, kind of like more than usual that she ever wore.
What do you make of the wigs and makeup? Like, I mean, since you knew her back then.
I don't know if she's trying to change her personality or I don't know.
And with Grandma Lily, Ashlee, I could see her sort of leaning in and listening when they played that full recording. It was interesting because this woman, the mom who's held up in the house, we never hear her voice. And then all of a sudden, she has this sort of assertive voice and was sort of like angry with Tyler. And you could tell Grandma Lily was really, really interested in that.
So was I. I mean, I just perked up right away hearing her voice for the first time. It wasn't what I expected.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below.
Yeah, because she probably wanted her to yell like she did last time. That's what I think. So again, guys, it's just my breakdown. It's not an attack, even though people are going to see it as an attack. It's just a perspective. I think that initial narrative, they just don't shake from, even when things seem to be pointing the other direction. I mean, now it's an attack on everyone else that's around it because the narrative is not going in the direction. So let's attack the judge for making the decisions that they made and still hold on to the narrative. I just don't think that's right. As always, guys, the show is Tier Talk. If you haven't, please subscribe, interact, engage like you've been doing. I love you guys. You guys are really helping out the channel grow. And also, I have donated a cup of coffee, or buy me a cup of coffee. Not donate. Buy. Buy me a cup of coffee. Yeah, why not? Donate was weird. Buy me a cup of coffee. The link in the description. And also, I have it on top of my YouTube channel. As always, guys, stay safe.